If you do raise your game, you will look more professional and look more trustworthy and look more capable just by virtue of your lighting being a bit better, and particularly with your audio being a bit better. Someone who has a small business, let's say a design business, does a lot of Zoom calls, currently using laptop webcam, built-in mic in a home office, and just wants to look a bit more professional and improve communication on those calls. Going back to very basics, the first thing I always say is you're doing video calls, your internet connection has to be good. If you have a bad internet connection, you're dropping out, you're not going to look professional, all bets are off, really. So this has got to be a priority. And if anyone wants to do a lot of work online, you just can't really skimp on the internet, I don't think. Decent video is around 3 to 5 megabits a second. I've got like 17 upstream here and 72 downstream, but it's that upstream that lets you put a decent resolution video up. And at home, like BT Internet, whatever the big one is, there is like 16 megabits upstream and 49 downstream. So just like you got to get that internet connection right, because otherwise it's just not going to matter how good your camera looks, how good your sound is, because it's just going to be glitching all over the place. And you also need to watch out for Wi-Fi. I mean, personally, I'm generally on Wi-Fi, but the situation you want to look out for is if you're far from the router or there are a lot of devices leaving or joining that Wi-Fi router, then you're going to have interruptions and glitches. But if you're at home or if you're in a small office where like you're quite near the router, obviously, if you can do Ethernet, that's great. And if you're a sort of design agency, you're probably uploading big files all the time. So you've got other reasons that you want that decent internet anyway. So that's step 0, just to point out the obvious. Your next challenge is audio. I'm assuming at the very least a Mac and an iPhone, probably an iPad as well. Assuming you already have Apple devices, this is one area where you might want to spend a bit of money, maybe 100, 200 quid, just on a decent microphone and some headphones. Some headphones that aren't too obvious is quite a nice thing, because people tend to comment if you've got big headphones on and it sort of takes away. Well, everything Apple says about the laptop's microphone and the iPhone's microphone, it's still pretty bad compared to any decent microphone. So I'd say like do that. And with the worst picture, you're still going to just look a lot better. I've got this Rode NT USB thing. I like it because you can monitor yourself. It's got a headphone. It works as an audio interface. It sounds fine. It certainly sounds a lot better than anything that's built into any of your devices. I just got a Rode, another Rode thing, which trouble is with audio hardware, as it gets more professional, you need a preamp, you need like monitoring, you need a compressor, you need all these different things. But sort of keep it simple. Keep it relatively plug and play if you can, I would, because it's a bit of a bottomless pit of stuff you could do once you start getting into audio. And, you know, as someone who's spent his whole life spending every spare penny on audio equipment, I can say it's, if you're already looking at cameras, I remember the day I was like, am I looking at camera equipment as well? Can I ever? And I did, and I bought a camera. And now it's like audio and camera, and it's just, I never get to keep any money. So now you sound good. That's really important, and you're not going to glitch out, and you can start to focus on what that picture looks like. And if you're in a home office, I assume you have a little bit of control over your environment. First, let's talk about the camera. I'm going to pitch shoot as your, like once you've got good sound, like your iPhone picture is going to be decent. I make Shoot Pro webcam, which lets you use your iPhone as a webcam. What I would say, if you are serious about this, there's a basic unlock, which just takes the watermark off and lets you have manual controls. But if you go basic plus pro, this gives you the full camera control and grids and a few extra things. And then you're going to be looking at the ISO, which is the sort of overall brightness of your image. You're going to be looking at shutter speed if there's like a monitor in your picture, if there's LEDs or something that are kind of flashing distractingly, you might adjust the shutter speed. Color balance controls. I sometimes warm up my image because I'm quite pale, so I quite like having that color balance control. And it might help to frame out, like the thing with a laptop camera is it is what it is, or even with continuity camera, it's sort of there, but just being able to zoom and crop in a little bit means you can create a slightly better frame than if you use, you know, one of the built-in things, and Shoot lets you do that. If you want to adjust those settings without having to reach over to your iPhone, you can use an Apple Watch, or Shoot has a browser remote control feature, which lets you control it from any browser. So you can just have a window open and adjust things and look at your preview there. Essentially, you want to either be in the middle, sort of and Shoot gives you a Fenwick frame, which tells you where to put your chin, where to put your thing. So if you sort of stick to that, it's going to be framed pretty nicely. The other option is rule of thirds. I don't know if that's a very accurate rule of thirds. Just if you're going to not be in the middle, try and be like here or here or here or here. Especially, you know, you might have something to present over here. So just try and be sort of like in a rule of thirds position, and things are going to look all right. To use Shoot with Zoom, and you've got a Mac, all you need to do is install Video Pencil Camera, which is a free app in the Mac App Store. Start up shooting on your phone, select that in Video Pencil Camera as your camera. And then in Zoom, you can select Video Pencil Camera as your virtual camera. And then that's all you need to get connected. And that gives you a lot of things. It's called Video Pencil Camera because I made it to connect to Video Pencil Camera. It's actually more of a sort of Squares TV Mac hub now. Maybe it gets renamed. It gives you a good virtual webcam, which not only works in Zoom, OBS, Ecamm, things like that, but it also works in FaceTime and QuickTime and the native Apple products, because it's a sort of modern camera extension that works in user space instead of using a kernel extension. There's technical reasons that Apple are sort of clamping down on kernel extensions. So there'll be some legacy camera extensions that will stop working. This is future-proofed for now. So lighting and your environment. I mean, the key to this, to having a better shot, is contrast between your foreground and background. You want a decent amount of light on your face. If you can have some diffuse light source, like a window is fine, but it just means in the evening you don't have it. So the reason to get a light is to be able to just shut the blinds and have total control. But most of the time, just don't be like pointing your camera like there's a window halfway across the frame and it's completely blowing out your image, stuff like that. So you just want a bit of fill, even light on your face, and that's going to look all right. And then sort of the more you look at your camera image, especially if you're like moving lights around and kind of looking at how that appears, you start to get a knack for like how it throws shadows, and you sort of want a shadow under your chin. And if you can get a little bit of like a backlight on your hair, that can look quite nice. The thing you want to do is create contrast between your face and what's behind you. So that can be in a number of ways. It can be dark behind you. It can be light on your face. You can have like an edge light to create a bit of separation. You can have a fairly monochrome background and be wearing colorful clothes, or the other way around, So it's just about sort of separating yourself from the background. If you can have some distance, that's a bit of a luxury sometimes in a home office. I don't have a lot of depth behind me in this particular room. I can't turn my desk around. It's a constant source of annoyance. But if you can have that more blurry in the background, that works well. But a lot of people just have like blue light. It can be relatively desaturated. And then if you sort of want to give it a little bit of character, just think of it more as like accenting something. Like you don't want to have a load of different colors fighting for attention, but like sort of pick a color scheme and, pick an accent that's a complementary color, or, you sort of want to keep that relatively simple. I'm kind of playing with fire I've got quite a lot of colors going on, and especially with this and this, but I don't mind. I like a bit of color. But another reason to have a relatively plain background is so that you can draw on it without having problems. This is where the next level is talking about telestration, talking about drawing on camera. So when you're on camera, just being able to draw something like, we'll do this, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this. Or you can even with Video Pencil, you can say like, we'll do like planning, we'll do or like ideation. You might be sort of like, okay, we'll do this, client, we'll do this, and you can sort of build up your conversation like that. And Video Pencil lets you do that. And then if you're already using Video Pencil Camera, all you need to do is just like fire up your iPad with Video Pencil on it, even like halfway through the call, and that will just be there ready for you. I like having Video Pencil running the whole time because I can sort of see a preview of what my camera looks like as well on my desk. So this lets you add a bit of flavor to those conversations and really helps you get a point across. The number of times that I've been trying to explain something, I remember having a conversation about like, I was trying to help someone improve their background, but because I didn't have the telestrator, I couldn't sort of go, look, it's just this is creating an awkward angle here, and it's sort of becoming confusing because you're here, and it's like, if I could have just sort of drawn that on, that would have made it so much easier to talk about it. So I think telestration is a really useful thing to have. But also you can sort of queue up a picture and also being able to load in videos. So if I wanted to sort of demonstrate something like this, I could pause and I could come in and I could draw around. Just being able to like bring in a video. And actually like something I use quite a lot is the ability to, I take a screenshot on my Mac and I just paste that into Video Pencil. Sometimes you're just trying to say, without having to share your screen, without having to muck about, like you just want to show what you're seeing, just screenshot, paste, and that comes up and you can draw on the offending thing. Video Pencil is going to really help you communicate better in general. With Video Pencil Camera, you can just share your screen directly without having to ask for permission on Zoom. And you can also queue that up and, take the screen out of the way while you talk, and you can be drawing on that. And then like just get that out of the way for a moment so we can talk face to face for a minute, and then we can like bring that back up again. And what you have to be aware of is When you use the screen sharing function on Zoom, it's going to use a different video compression thing to make it less movement, but sharper. This is still going to be using the sort of like webcam type codec. So just make sure you're zoomed in. And then Video Pencil camera does let you zoom in on that screen share as well. And that's just better for clarity anyway. They're great for doing presentations. I'm reading off a teleprompter more or less now with an app called Beat Sheet, which I'm not going to actually go into today. But a reason for a teleprompter is being able to make eye contact. When you're on a laptop and their face is there and the camera is there, you're looking there. So you're sort of just looking a little bit above their head kind of thing, which is not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. When you have a teleprompter, you're able to, have your camera like that, and their face is going to be there. It's going to be effectively directly behind your camera lens. And so that just means you're able to do an even better job of eye contact than if you were on the other camera. But the problem is if you don't do the teleprompter and your camera's now up here, then you're sort of looking quite far above someone's head. So if you're not using that, then just try and sort of get it down as close to the screen as you can. And that's why Apple, when they do the continuity camera adapters, they sort of clamp on more or less where the webcam is. What I do, though, is I have a teleprompter set up. I have another older iPad with Duet app on it as a display, which can flip it, because you need to be able to mirror that screen. So you can't just stick any HDMI monitor in a teleprompter because it needs to be flipped. I did have an idea yesterday when I was thinking about this. I'm thinking about like an eye contact feature for shoot. You could choose your zoom window in Video Pencil camera, and that would put the person's face next to the lens on your phone and just use that. So that's something I am thinking about, but it's a lot of tech for something that, if you are serious about this, then probably just sort out the teleprompter. I'd say like the teleprompter isn't loads, but you do need a display, which it adds up. So if you've got an older iPad, then using Duet, that's what I do, and it's great. So in summary, if you already have Apple products, you can massively upgrade your setup without buying any new hardware, a microphone notwithstanding. You can take control of your camera with Shoot. You can use Video Pencil camera to connect to Zoom. You can take control of your image with lighting and organizing your environment and just trying to like get rid of the skewy angles and the colors and the things competing for attention in the frame. And I mean, that's an art form. I can't summarize aesthetics in a single session, but if you can have a plainer background, it creates more opportunities to do telestration. You can draw with Video Pencil, you can share images and videos with Video Pencil, and you can share your screen via Video Pencil camera. And then once you've done all this, you can think about a teleprompter. That's my kind of advice for getting started. It's not loads, but it can be a bit overwhelming. And I'm trying to make things easy. I have demo videos on how to do a lot of these things on the website, but just always feel free to reach out to me, because it doesn't need to be that complicated. And some people really enjoy that it's complicated. I kind of do, but I think this can be simple, and I think we can create a sort of Apple-like experience.